Did Satoshi Nakamoto really just move Bitcoin here, and is he potentially even preparing for a sale? The mysterious founder of Bitcoin, whose true identity is still unknown to this day. We're seeing these reports everywhere right now. Old Bitcoin wallet just moved here. We can see it very clearly here. The wallet traces back to Satoshi Nakamoto. This all happened 14.3 years ago. 4,000 Bitcoin. Here are some more reports. These are 100% Satoshi's wallets, and we're talking about 440 million in Bitcoin that would be moved. We need to take a close look at what's really going on here. The cool thing about Bitcoin is that everything is transparent. That's why we can break down exactly what's happening here right now. We also see Tucker Carlson, one of the biggest podcasters in the world, who is now being very, very critical, very negative about Bitcoin. It was almost like an escapade that took place here. He addresses the reporters here, saying that Bitcoin was invented by the CIA. So, he's basically directly referencing the story of Satoshi Nakamoto here. He says you can't invest in Bitcoin because Satoshi Nakamoto is not known. Guys, the whole video has gone ultra-viral. We have to check it out now. Before we do, it would make me really happy if you hit the like button below for higher Bitcoin prices and new all-time highs. And to celebrate the day, I'm showing you my bullish Bitcoin socks. Here are my shoes with a hole in them. And here, this water bottle. Here, look, here's the hole. Here's the hole, not on the other side. Right here, straight from New York, from the airport. And what happened here? We really need to take a close look at that. So, what we see here is Satoshi's wallet from 2009 started selling Bitcoin. It even says so here. But we need to take a closer look at this now. It says here, he received 440 million in Bitcoin back then, which would be the equivalent today, and held it for 16 years. But, now the Bitcoin are being moved here. So first of all, we have to say, this news isn't 100% accurate. No Bitcoin are actually being sold here. Yes, there was a movement. The movement did happen. Other accounts are also recorded here, and you can clearly see the movements here. There are 440 million or 420 million here. You can see confirmed balance here, 3,850 Bitcoin here, so almost 4,000 Bitcoin here. And the coins were last moved here or meant where you here. Were worth only $67,000 in total. And now here, it's over 442 million. So first of all, you have to say, a legend for holding out this long, held all the way through here, took massive gains. Now people are asking if Satoshi Nakamoto no longer believes that the Bitcoin rally is coming. Just lost confidence. Here, right after Trump's speech, is it just a coincidence that these coins are being moved? 100% Satoshi. But now I'll give you my own assessment here. So we can see that probably someone just posted something here, like, coins are being moved. And now people are just interpreting it as if these are Satoshi Nakamoto's coins. We just need to know one thing. In the beginning, Satoshi Nakamoto was of course one of the main miners, but there were also other people who mined Bitcoin, who were involved in Bitcoin mining. And these are just very early wallets that have now moved. But we don't have any 100% proof that it was really Satoshi Nakamoto. That means we have to be extremely careful here. That quickly stirs up a lot of FUD as well, because, of course, you can always use this to create panic and basically unsettle the network. And if we take a look, this Jacob King, that's a really big account, a very well-known account, and it's almost on the same level as Peter Schiff. Every bit of FUD that comes up here, whether it's Quinton FUD or Satoshi FUD, he obviously uses it to cast Bitcoin in a really bad light. But nevertheless, even if it wasn't Satoshi Nakamoto, it's still very relevant what is happening here. Because now it seems like we have OGs who maybe just want to take profits or maybe just rebalance for self-custody reasons. There can be all sorts of different reasons for that. It could also be that someone has passed away. Then it's the heirs who are moving their Bitcoin here, and so on. But there's always something going on here because of that. There's panic in the network whenever these old Bitcoiners sell their Bitcoin. Or maybe nothing is actually being sold, but why are people moving Bitcoin? It's always the obvious assumption that someone is selling off their Bitcoin here. By the way, that's also the reason why Michael Saylor doesn't want to do any proof of reserves here, meaning he doesn't want to publish his addresses, because he wants to protect himself exactly from this kind of FUD. If Michael Saylor were to move 1 or 2 Bitcoin or something like that, all the FUdsters would jump on it, just like now, and create panic. That's why it was really important to me to break all this down and bring some clarity here, because I keep getting questions about it. Are you Satoshi, or what's going on here? I think the most relevant thing could be if quantum computers actually reach the point where they could attack these first addresses. Of course, the Bitcoin network can be updated. You can introduce new address formats that are quantum-proof, quantum-resistant, and things like that. But then, if such technologies exist, these attackers would probably target Satoshi Nakamoto's addresses first, because those still use the old address formats and hold most of the Bitcoin. Pretty much all those addresses have about 50 Bitcoin each, because that was the block reward at the beginning. And at that point, it could really become relevant, because then you could see whether Satoshi is still alive. Because if he doesn't move his coins, they'll just get hacked out, fished out, or attacked in some way. That will probably be a very interesting point. But until then, we still got plenty of time. So, don't let yourselves get too unsettled by this. There are always suspicions that these kinds of attacks are carried out deliberately, for example by bot armies. Michael Saylor has also said that MicroStrategy is being attacked, that the Bitcoin price is being targeted. Bot armies are being deployed on social media to spread some of this fake news, although it's not 100% fake news. Bitcoin is being moved, but then things get interpreted into these news stories that don't actually belong there. And you really have to make a clear distinction there. And that's why, once again, it was so important to me to go into the details here and make it clear to you what's actually going on, so you don't just panic. I always see those panic sales then. And that brings us to the next special case. Tucker Carlson, who basically walked right into this trap. Now let's check out what Tucker Carlson has to say about the CIA and Satoshi. The guy actually recorded a podcast with Michael Saylor for over an hour. A podcast about Bitcoin, and he still doesn't seem to get it. It's really fascinating, the nonsense he's spouting here. Check this out.
Do you invest in Bitcoin? Do you think it's like a viable asset to invest in?
Oh man, I don't want to make more enemies. I mean, you want the real, it's my last answer, but you want the actual answer?
Yeah, sure.
And here's why. I spoke at the Bitcoin conference actually last year. I've spoken at a couple of Bitcoin conferences. I love the idea of Bitcoin because I love the idea of financial autonomy. I don't want what I buy or sell to be tracked. I don't want my money to be tracked. It's nobody's business. I pay my taxes. I've never cheated on my taxes.
In any way, I don't want my money to be restricted. That's nobody's business. I pay my taxes. I've never had any issues with my taxes. But pay close attention to how he's standing here. Just look at his body language. He's not standing openly here. Instead, he's standing with his arms very tightly crossed. And now watch what he says next. And especially in the context of his body language, he is.
I've been very tempted, but I never have one time cheated on my taxes. And once the money's mine, like I can do what I want with it. And if you find me breaking the law, arrest me. But if you don't, it's none of your beeswax, as the kids say. So I love the idea of the blockchain. I knew some of the people involved in that whole thing. And I still believe in that promise, okay? Roger Ver, for example. I don't know how closely you follow this, but like, there are people who still believe in that. But it turns out that it is not, to this point, been, I hope it will be, a way to conduct financial transactions privately at all. And that really freaks me out. I'm really afraid of a digital currency because that is totalitarian control. If you can punish people, if you can zero out their bank account and keep them from eating, you will have total obedience. Like that's totalitarian. And I know that young people love crypto because they've been completely screwed in the job market and there are no financial opportunities for most of them. And they know they're staring down a life of, if not poverty, certainly a step down from the way they grew up, most young people. And so Bitcoin for them, crypto in general for them, is a promise of like, how can I make it in this world? Like I would like to have a normal life. How can I do that? And crypto is a way they think that they can. And I'm praying for them. I hope that's true. But I fear that it will become like so many other things in our country, a scam of sorts.
Okay, now it's getting wild, because now he's talking about Bitcoin and putting it in the context of a scam, suddenly saying Bitcoin is a scam. And how can you talk to Michael Saylor for an hour and still be convinced that Bitcoin is a scam, that it's fraud? We know that it's decentralized, that the rules can't just be changed, unless the whole network agrees, unless you agree yourself. You can't be inflated, you can't be censored. Yeah, of course it might not be completely anonymous, but we have transparency. Slideshows, that also has its advantages on the other side. For example, politicians and so on can't just cover things up.
Run by a coalition of the financial beneficiaries, like a few people who are getting all the winnings, and the politicians they control who use it to further their control of American society. I'm really worried about that. And so I'll just be totally bummed with you. I'm a gold buyer, and I've been vindicated big time in that. And everyone's like, oh, you're crazy buying gold. Yeah. You know, it was good enough for the Phoenicians. It's good enough for me. And I, in general, don't get involved in anything I don't understand. I think that's a really good rule. So there's some things I think I understand, turns out I didn't understand them. But in general, I try to limit myself to things I understand. And nobody can explain to me who Satoshi was, the creator of Bitcoin, this mysterious guy who apparently died, but nobody knows who he was.
Yeah, then just stick to your beliefs and don't go around saying that Bitcoin is a scam. He says he only invests in things he understands, not in things he doesn't understand. He'd rather invest in gold, but he has an opinion on every little thing here. He goes on about how Bitcoin is supposedly corrupted, that some institutions are taking all the gains. That's a ridiculous argument. Most of the coins are held by private investors, by people who aren't BlackRock, Michael Saylor, or the like. Me neither. Why is it supposed to be a bad thing that Satoshi Nakamoto isn't known? That's actually the best part. There's no central person to attack. No one you can go after, no one who controls the network or anything like that. It's a completely decentralized network. By the way, gold doesn't have a founder either, if he's such a big gold bug. In my opinion, it's absolutely the most selfless thing Satoshi could have done. And nobody even knows if he's still alive or dead or whatever. But it gets even crazier. Now the CIA and all that blah 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 gets thrown in too.
You know, I grew up in DC primarily in a government family, so CIA. That's my guess. Can't prove it, but like, you're telling me to invest in something whose founder is like mysterious and has billions of dollars of unused Bitcoin. Like, what is that? And no one can answer the question, including some of the biggest holders of Bitcoin in the world. Do I know personally? They're like, oh, it doesn't matter. Well, it matters to me, right?
And no idea, Friedrich Merz or Larry Fink or Elon Musk or who knows, who is Satoshi Nakamoto. That's completely irrelevant because he can't change the network anymore. Now we have a decentralized network here. He couldn't really change it even at the beginning. At the start, maybe he could have had some marketing influence. And maybe he also had a large hash rate at the beginning, right at the very start. But that faded away pretty quickly, and it was also very clear that he didn't want to be or represent the core of Bitcoin. Yeah, for example, if you start, he deliberately waited until other people joined the network to mine new blocks. The first coins, he couldn't even pay them out to himself. In fact, he even built in mechanisms to make sure he wouldn't get too much control over the network. And by now, he has no control at all anymore. So, that's absolute nonsense. But hey, those bearish, critical voices often turned out to be great buying opportunities. So check out the link below if you want to buy Bitcoin. I'll drop a link for you there. 21 Bitcoin. Cool, use the Bitcoin code for up to 20% off on the fee, then we buy Bitcoin and save saps. Peace out.